Welcome to the Tourism AI podcast, where we talk about all things at the intersection of artificial intelligence and tourism. I'm super excited today. I have Deneen Allen with me, joining as my guest. And Deneen is the founder and CEO of Pure North Canada and Firecircle. And I've had the absolute honor to get to know and work with Deneen a little bit over the last couple months, actually through some of my AI training. So Deneen and her team joined me for some training sessions. And honestly, Deneen, we ended up talking about all kinds of things. And it was a really wonderful experience. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for having me. We're going to have a fun conversation.
I think so. So reason I wanted to bring you on actually is because obviously you're in the training space for the tourism industry, and you're pretty deep. And I think you've done some amazing things. So a little bit selfishly, I want to learn a little more about your experience and what's worked and what hasn't. But also for our audience, I just want to kind of talk about the importance of ongoing training, ongoing education. The value that working together and collaborating and learning together has for an industry like ours, which is so diverse and so spread out all across this beautiful country and this world, right? So yeah, so why don't we
Yeah,
just start off with maybe a little introduction to yourself? Why don't you sort of self-introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your companies and your journey so far.
absolutely. Well, my background is in design and construction. And I've also had a background in retail. And I got into tourism about almost 30 years ago now. I've been an owner and an operator of tourism businesses, hospitality businesses, owned a corporate retreat, two gourmet food shops, a catering company, a cooking studio. I've been a milliner, if anybody knows what that is. I've made hats back in the day. So, and I love the hospitality industry. I started consulting many years ago, probably I think it was about 2008, 2009. And the consulting that I was doing was community and rural tourism development in these beautiful, amazing places in Canada, all over Canada, a lot of Indigenous communities. And I have both Indigenous and non-Indigenous clients all over Canada. And the projects have been so diverse. I'm now re-engaged working on a cultural center up in Tuktoyaktuk, which I started working on with that community in, 2018. I worked on luxury hot springs resorts and golf course resorts and everything from fishing lodge acquisitions and turnarounds. And I'm very involved right now in the outdoor hospitality space. So I consult, and I also have this online tourism and hospitality training series called Firecircle. So we are a tourism and hospitality development hub, and we have developed all kinds of programs for entrepreneurs to improve their businesses with, to launch businesses with, and that just keeps growing. And I'm excited about some of the collaboration that you and I are going to do in that space of combining the AI training with hospitality. So looking forward to that. But that's a bit of background for me. It's just fairly diverse and it's touched many, many parts of the industry.
And so as you were doing everything you were doing, I assume that correct me if I'm wrong, but is it correct to assume that you sort of came into the reality that a lot of these tourism operators just sort of needed a lot of help in a lot of different areas, and it sounds like you kind of organically evolved, I guess, your business based on the need that you saw. Is that sort of a fair assessment?
That's exactly what happened. And it didn't really seem to matter what the experience level was of the client, whether they were just starting out when I was consulting, whether they were just starting out or whether they had been in business for many years. I kept finding the same gaps in different degrees in 5 key areas. And that became the program, the core program for Firecircle, called the 5x5 method. And those 5 areas are market context, understanding their market context and product market fit. And then the second area is brand story development or they're even just a fundamental understanding of what that means and how to use it. Operational design, physical design, and presentation. So literally merchandising your property, your business, and how to build the right thing in the right place for the right market. And then financial management. So those 5 key areas still drive every program that we produce, because those gaps, as I've said so many times in the last few years, are very deep, and they run across the entire industry, and they're not exclusive to rural and remote. Some of these issues, understanding your market, understanding pricing, physical presentation, optimizing your operations to be more efficient. These can run through businesses in urban centers as well. Yeah, I think that the driving thing for me in founding Firecircle as the educational piece, as the training piece, was how to fill all those gaps as fast as we can so that our industry is healthier, more vibrant, more competitive on the world stage.
Yeah. Amazing. I love it. So really, to me, it sounds like a really sort of key destination development, I guess, for lack of better terms, sort of support amongst other things, obviously. But destination development's a big deal these days, and not necessarily destination per se, but sort of experience development and really from the ground up and all the components. That sounds like
It
what you're
really
focused on.
It really is. So not only getting the businesses to work on their business in terms of all of those 5 areas and strengthening all of those 5 areas, and we have put together this program, which is specifically for destination development, called our Tourism Experience Development Program. And I just got off a call actually with a destination in Alberta that has a couple of ideas of how they want to be known in the world. Destination, and could we run a program for their businesses where they're all focused on bringing a piece of that experience to the destination and acting almost like a collective in strengthening that destination and becoming known for that thing. And so that's a fun project, and it absolutely is how we're applying some of these resources, is alignment with the destination, supporting their goals for destination development, and getting the businesses to hook onto that wagon, and
Yeah.
all succeed together. Yes.
Amazing. I love it. Interestingly, I just I'm at the Northern BC Tourism Conference, so I'm actually in a hotel room right now. And I was just sitting at breakfast and listening to a conversation with somebody from the BC government, and they were talking about sort of funding, tourism and funding different ideas that entrepreneurs are bringing to the table. And it was really interesting. I was sort of overhearing the conversation, but I as I always do, I sort of inserted myself and got engaged. But the interesting thing that the guy was talking about was, the lack of sort of data to support the need or the idea and that kind of thing. And he was saying that, in the particular case, in the situation he was talking to this person, she had the case sort of figured out, and they understood okay, if we build this, we expect this type of visitation and these types of people, and this is the economic impact. So she had all that figured out. But he was saying, they get a lot of applicants of people saying, oh, well, this will be a 25% increase if we do this. And, it was like, well, starting from what number and based on what information, and he was saying, we're really pushing tourism operators and destinations to really start to sort of gather the data ahead of time and really
Gather
understand their
more.
numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that
Gather
part
more
of
data.
part of
Yeah.
what you do?
Well, we're always encouraging our businesses to ask a more fundamental question than even who is coming from where, but it's why are they coming? And to ask every single operator, every single business, ask your clients, why did they come to your business? And you can do that quite unobtrusively. You can just be curious about what brought you to our lodge or what brought you to our restaurant today. And I always tell our members, our clients, you can find out so much information by asking that question instead of just the demographic questions. And it will strengthen your own brand story if you are told enough times why people are coming and those stories seem to have a core theme to them. That is what you're mean to those clients, and it's part of your story. And so you should be asking everybody, what brought you here? Why did you choose to come to this place in the world? And we do need to collect that data. The other thing that we talk a lot about with our clients is is David Allison, a friend and a very respected colleague of mine, has developed value graphics, which is buying behavior or behavior in general based on values, not on past history. So not on old data, not on past, demographics or psychographics, but on it's predictive. If you can align your business with the values of the people that you want to come, so you understand your own values, and therefore, and you've embedded those in your business, and therefore you're looking for that kind of guest, that kind of client. If you can connect, David says, if you can connect on values, you're going to be 87% successful in a match versus demographics, which I think, and I hope I'm quoting him correctly, is like a 13% match if you only base it on let's say, demographics. So yes, this data is important, but it's also important to understand why they're coming, and their values will come out in what brought them to you.
You have no idea how happy that makes me feel because we're launching a new website for my marketing agency, CIPR Communications, and I wrote the About Us page, and I wrote all about our values and all about how we search for clients that align with our values. Because I have experienced this firsthand. When there's not a cultural and a values alignment, it's really hard. It's really hard to do good work, and you sort of kind of miss each other all the time. And I feel like you and I probably share good sort of a lot of values, which is why we've had such a wonderful working relationship, right? And it just
Yes.
it just clicks immediately when it's there, right? So I think that's wonderful. That's awesome.
Yes. Well, I love hearing that that's what you did on your website, because it's such an important conversation, and it's can be that overt,
Hmm.
where you actually talk about what's important to you. So I still remember when one of our members said, after one of these conversations about values, she said, "Oh, I finally understand why I'm doing all that social media marketing." It's like, yes. You're doing it to communicate your values, to build those relationships with people who value the same things as you do, and so want to be part of what you're doing and want to buy your goods and services because of that. Anyway,
Totally.
love to hear that.
Yeah, and I'll just last point on this. I think it's so important for destinations because, if I think about different places in the world and, things like over tourism where people get annoyed and things like that, it's like if you have the right tourists coming to your destination and they align with the values and the culture of the community well, then I think those problems don't become as pronounced as well. And I think that's just good for tourism overall. So,
It's a
yeah.
great point. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, nice. So we are on an AI podcast, and so let's talk about a little bit about maybe what needs to maybe at some point be your sixth of your 5x5, which is technology. Because I think technology is an interesting part of the equation, and I'm going to share a story with you about actually Tourism Kelowna, because I had a podcast with them quite a long time ago, and I reference it a lot, where the person who created the AI chatbot on their website was telling me about how interesting it was when they installed this AI chatbot, how much they started to learn about their clients and about the questions that were coming in, and probably a little bit about the values. Like, it becomes this
Yes.
two-way conversation, right? And it becomes this, you see how the chatbot responds, then you have to make some adjustments, but you also see how the questions are coming in and how that dialogue's coming in. And so I really believe that AI actually is a very interesting enabler of many of the things you're talking about in terms of that values alignment and making sure we're aligning with the right people and bringing the right people in, and we could be more targeted and that kind of thing. So do you talk in your programming about technology and about sort of its value to tourism?
Yes, I mean, in the obvious ways that were obvious before AI. So, in their digital presence and how that's coming across in the world, in their back end technology and how that is assisting the customer journey and the path to purchase, and how it supports the relationship after the exchange of goods and services. Amazing to me how many businesses still are not even there at that stage where everything that they're offering is in real life, but also on a digital platform, and they have a digital storefront as well as their in real life storefront. So that's still a challenge with a lot of businesses. So they're not even ready for what AI can do for them because they still are trying to embrace some of the technology that's come up through the last, over the last 10 years. And then uh, we have some members who are using AI more than we are. They're doing all their marketing with it. They're setting up chatbots, on their website. They're trying to figure out AI agents. So there are members in Firecircle who are, they're ahead of us in terms of adoption. But I think you've pointed out so well to us that we're still, I think, a ways away from mass adoption. The hospitality industry is catching up, but has been sadly behind technology adoption vis-a-vis other industries. And now we're starting to get serious about it. So I think there's steps in the journey, right? First, they've got to get fully digitized in terms of their digital storefront and everything that should be doing from e-commerce to communications. And then how do you accelerate those or create efficiencies with AI? And then we also talk with everybody about and you've talked to us at Firecircle about this, but that authenticity of voice. So using AI as a tool and then ensuring that the output from it is still in your voice. So, one of my biggest concerns with AI usage right now with the sort of, let's say, small and medium sized operators is that if they haven't built the knowledge up about how their business should operate and how, in those 5 areas, and then you overlay AI without that fundamental knowledge of market, of brand story, of operations, of physical design, and then you overlay AI and take advice from AI, you have no way of evaluating whether that's a valid proposition for you to follow that path. So it's one of my concerns right now, but I see it making its way in. I'll give you one more example, which was very interesting to me. Speaking to one of my mentors, so we have a whole bunch of mentors at Firecircle, and as I like to say, they're all indoctrinated into Firecircle's programs and methodologies, and they're amazing. And I was chatting with one of my mentors, and he said, "I'm not hearing from a so and so and so and so so and so members that he was mentoring." He said, "I'm not hearing from them as much." This was at the beginning of the summer. I said, "Oh, really? That's interesting." He says, "They're telling me that they don't need to meet as much because they're using ChatGPT." And I was thinking, that's very interesting. So, but what Ernesto was saying to me, our mentor was saying, what I'm worried about is that they're getting these one-off answers without the context for a more comprehensive solution to what they're trying to solve in the moment. And so instead of calling Ernesto and getting that more fulsome understanding, they're getting like they're busy, I mean,
Totally.
we're all busy running our businesses. They're busy. They want an answer now. They get a quick answer from chat and they're plugging that in, which may be very successful, but in the absence of knowledge, it is very scary. So, and I thought, oh, okay, but what's interesting is that it's clearly needed for them to have this quick access to answers about their business. And, so one of the things I know you and I have talked about, and as something in Firecircle is, do we upload every single program that we've got in Firecircle and create an agent that can answer any question on any part of our programs for our members? And I think that's still a goal that we'd like to aim at, so that they have that quick answer, but we know it's coming with the right context and the right,
That's right.
broader sort of knowledge that they should have.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's a really great example. I really like it, and you'll I think you and I are going to be at a conference soon, and maybe you'll have an opportunity to hear and see my new slide. I just presented my new deck yesterday, and I have a slide, and it's an AI generated picture of Justin Timberlake, and it says, "I'm not bringing sexy back." And the reason I put that image in there just to be a little fun and cheeky is because as you and I have talked about a lot, context is everything, right? And so we need to do the heavy work and we need to make sure we're naming things properly and contextualizing everything properly and sort of getting the tool to actually be integrated with us and understanding us in order for it to contextually be able to answer, our questions. And just one thing I'm actually building, I'm going to be announcing soon, is a tool called Tourism Ops AI. And I actually really think now that we're talking, so I'm just saying this now in the public realm, is that your 5x5 methodology is a really interesting context to load into my tool, because this tool is going to be basically, it's going to be called Tourism Ops AI. So it'll be a vertical AI agent focused only on helping tourism operators operate. And that context that you develop in your 5x5 program is like ideal context, I think, for sort of feeding the tool. And then it'll be built on all of their information and data and then secured. So it's like their own little AI tool built on their business and their data
And their
with your
business.
five
Yeah.
by five. I think that's a really powerful approach, because now all of a sudden it's all there, right? And
Yeah.
then it sort of makes sense. And now the AI can work for their business, on their business. We can create agents from there and go from there. So I just
Well,
had
I
the
think
great idea there.
this notion of that before they, yes, like, so that tool is the most useful for them. It's kind of, when we are coaching them on what the generative AI is going to produce about their business, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you need to have so much FAQ, as you coached us, FAQ type of information on all of your website pages that is going to be scraped by AI and produce that generative, whether you like it or not, the generative description of your business. That is the first search result. In a similar fashion, if they are able to articulate really well every part of their operation, which is not happening yet, right? Obviously, very sophisticated operators can absolutely. They have all the systems and processes. It's all documented. They're running
Yeah.
a beautiful ship, but that is not the norm. And so it's going to be critical for these businesses to be able to articulate every single thing that they do in a day. We call it a day in the life. And that is the information that an AI agent would have to have before it can successfully assist them, right?
That's
And
right.
yeah, so that's a discipline that many small businesses don't have because they haven't found the time to work on the business. They got going, they're in it. Some of those systems and processes for them are innate. Like they're just embedded in their brain, and they don't realize
Yeah.
they're actually doing something that could be described. Even just talk to a microphone.
That's right.
Tell the AI what you're doing in this particular activity and get it to produce a checklist or produce a manual for that particular part of your
Process. Yeah.
operation. Describe your systems to AI. Describe the
Yeah.
processes within that system. Here's my
Yeah.
housekeeping system. Here are the processes within that system of housekeeping. And then, produce the manual, and then your AI agent has something it can work with, right? So I think
That's
there's
right.
there's like a discipline that's going to be involved in it being successful for these businesses to integrate AI. But I mean, I'm on a call every week with an American roundtable just because I love to listen in on what's happening down south of the border in our industry. These kinds of apps are coming up fast, right? They when you can't answer the phone, they answer the phone, and you can't email, they're emailing back. It's
Mm-hmm.
like 24/7, and these are the kinds of things that these small operators really need because they're so strapped for time and labor. So there's those kinds of things will get picked up first because that's a fairly simple operation to describe, and those answers are really simple to give to to an AI, a bot, or not a bot,
Agent.
agent. Yeah, we don't want any bots. Yeah. So I think that'll be adopted first, right? That'll be like the first line of adoption. They don't even realize, a lot of operators, they already have some AI already working in their business, right? And some of these other e-commerce pieces and whatnot. But yes, I think that stuff like that will get adopted first, and then the more complex things will come. as they're able to articulate more clearly how they want all this stuff to roll out for their business.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, and I really, as we're having this conversation, really think that your 5x5 methodology is like such good contextual building for the agents actually. So, you and I should talk more about that and understand how it integrates. Obviously, we're talking about. Actually, this is not even the conversation I was intending to have today because we were going to talk all about training, but I think it's a wonderful conversation. But obviously, in the training piece, and we need to keep reinforcing these messages. And back to my taking the sexy back or whatever, we got to do the unsexy work, unfortunately. Like, we got to have the
We
discipline, we
do.
got to do the work. It's got to happen,
We
otherwise
let's
you're going to be gone, right?
Yeah, let's talk about training, because we had a little chat before we started, and I was just asked what the ROI is going to be on a program that a destination management organization is considering. And I said the ROI is embedded in your businesses. They are the ROI. The ROI. They are the only ones who can give you a return on the investment. We can give them all the tools, like any program, like any training. There's never really an issue of the training content. It's an issue of time and commitment and dedication to upskilling, learning something completely new. The Firecircle actually came about in a very funny way, because I had already been consulting in tourism and hospitality for many years, and I was exhausted. And the thing that was exhausting me, and a few people out there will have heard me say this, the thing that was exhausting me was the mismatch of ableness and willingness at the same time. So I'd have lots of clients pay us and able to pay us to work with them to make a difference in their business. But what was missing was their willingness to do the work, to do, as you say, the hard, unsexy part that we were recommending, that would have changed the trajectory of their business, would have transformed their business, would have set it on a completely new path of success. But the unwillingness the lack of grit would trip them up, or the fatigue would trip them up, or the overwhelm, which would not have anything to do with us or with the recommendations. It was just they were already overwhelmed, and how to think about this change or these changes that they would have to make. And it was just sort of too much for them. But that was exhausting for me, because you're looking at this business. You know exactly what they need to do to turn it around. And they just won't do it. And so I thought, you know what? I just have to write it all down and float it out there. And if people want to take these programs and learn how to make that change, how to completely turn their business around, over to them. It's up to you now. Like, I'm exhausted. Here's all the information.
Yeah.
So that's how Firecircle started.
Interesting.
So it really is up to the individual. And, like, I am one of the worst offenders. I have like 3 programs I have signed up for in the last 2 years. I have barely made it through the first whatever chapter.
Right.
We're all in the same boat, unless we have the discipline to say every Monday from 8:30 until 10:30, nobody bother me, because I am doing this program. I am learning something. Or, every Wednesday afternoon, don't bug me. I have to make some time to learn this. That is when you start to see progress, right? And when I think that there's mentorship, which we provide a lot of, we really see the difference when there's community. So we have hundreds of members in Firecircle, and a lot of them show up to our group coaching sessions. And, they're showing up to learn something, but mostly they're just showing up for company. Because I've said this so many times, like, they're lonely, they're probably stressed, especially these days, that they just want to talk to their compatriots in the tourism industry. They want to talk to someone else who's going through the same thing that they're going through.
Yeah.
And so this community is really important for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that can encourage more learning, because if they see that they're having the same problem as somebody else,
Right.
and they might be encouraged to take this program together, Anyway, I think there's something to that, right?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. When I started Tourism AI Network, it's our little kind of words are education, collaboration, community. Those are sort of the main points I wanted to hit on, and I feel like, I mean, obviously meeting you and hopefully partnering with you and sort of putting our communities together and helping people go through this together. Because I, what I'm realizing is I go to these conferences, I'm like the scary guy on the stage telling you about how everything in your business is going to change and how all
Yeah.
this craziness is going to come in, and it's like not exactly like, oh great, let's get to work, right? It's like oh god. And I actually just talked to a lady this morning who was like, I just want to retire. I don't even want to, like, very interesting, but I don't want to even think about this. It sounds hard, right? And that's a really big hurdle to overcome for people, right? To your point of people running their businesses already, business is hard already, right? It's getting harder. So I
Yeah.
think just the community aspect is so important, and having people, I'm part of a digital marketing agency network, a global agency network. And so I just love the fact that I can, yeah, have a meeting and talk to fellow marketing agency
Right.
owners and talk about our common issues. And it's so powerful, right? So I think, I mean, obviously you've been very successful in what you've been doing. Firecircle's taken off and it's been awesome. And I'm really, really excited to work with you to sort of bring in this AI conversation in new and interesting ways.
Yeah, definitely. Like make it less scary, make it, adoptable by these
Yes.
businesses in easier ways. E-commerce was painful. The whole implementation of e-commerce over the last 10 years was painful and it's still
Yeah.
painful for a lot of
Still
people.
painful. I was going to
It's
say it's
still
still painful.
painful. I mean,
Yeah.
we're constantly in the back end of our e-commerce, like, oh yeah, this URL or, well, like, there's always something, right? It's painful, but it happened. It just took time and it's the norm. So everything will become the norm, but we've got to give people time um, and there's just so much pressure sometimes to adopt these things really quickly. I think step by step is our mantra at Firecircle. It's one foot, it's literally one foot in front of the other, and let's be calm and let's only do what you can manage right now. It's the same thing with sustainability. Like, sustainability is the norm, but has everybody embraced this like comprehensive sustainability plan? No, because it's hard and it has to come as businesses can actually make the time and have the resources to implement these things, even to think about the things and then implement the things. So it will come. I have no doubt it is. I mean, it's already the norm in many people's lives. People are using AI tools every single day, multiple hours a day. Am I allowed to say that my husband fixed the toaster last week? This is the most mechanically uninclined person on the planet who took several images of the toaster, uploaded them to ChatGPT, and proudly announced to me, I was actually slightly dismayed. I'm like, I don't know if I want you to fix the toaster, but like fix the toaster.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like people are just using it in every kind of possible way
That's
right
amazing.
now. And so I think we just need to give them the space to experiment with it and what works for the businesses. And what you're doing, which I think is fantastic, is presenting it in sound bites and pieces that can be absorbed. And then it's like, okay, once you've done that, then we'll go and do that. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I think that's the only, like, otherwise, like, these business owners, I mean, I'm overwhelmed half the time with what I've got to get done in my own business. So I am
Totally.
I am
Yeah.
completely empathetic. And so, yeah, I think we have to not make them feel like they're drinking from a fire hose, which, sometimes in our programs, I use that term a lot because I know we're asking them to drink from a fire hose. But, then we bring it back and then they've got mentors and then they proceed on a more like calm step by step. So in spurts, we're going to give them a ton of information, but then I think we have to give people the space to absorb all of that.
Right. Well, and I think to your point, like everybody's using the tools, and if we could do a quick little 1 hour, here's a couple little tips on how to use the tools a little bit better than you're using them now. Just those little aha moments and those little opportunities can really go a long way to really sort of accelerate things forward, right? So I think that's the exciting opportunity for AI for me is that, it's not like, yes, it's a lot, but at the same time, like just a little bit of knowledge really can go far, right? And so you can really get those aha moments and get people excited and get people kind of using it, getting as much out of the tools as possible with sort of fairly minimal effort, right? So it's pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, and it builds their confidence and then they're, ready to do like the next one. So yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Nice. Well, I told you we could talk forever, and we're
Yes,
probably talking for longer than we were planning. So why
yes.
don't we leave it
Thank
there for
you.
now? Yeah, and
Fantastic. Thank you for
really,
having me. We can do part two sometime in the near future when we see what's
sure.
happening out there in the world of AI adoption.
Sounds wonderful. No, I look forward to it.
Okay.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.